Hello, I am the Home Energy Lead for the Northwest Net Zero Hub. I am here today to give you my thoughts on scaling up housing retrofit in the Northwest and more specifically across the Liverpool City region. Firstly, though, a short introduction to the Northwest Net Zero Hub and my role at the Hub. The Northwest Net Zero Hub is funded through the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero and set up to support local energy projects. We have a growing team of specialist energy staff, and we're working to scale up local energy investment, raise awareness, and support for decarbonisation and net zero policy across the Northwest. I sit within the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, but I cover a much wider geography. When I talk about the Northwest in today's presentation, I'm talking across the areas listed on screen: Cumbria, Greater Manchester, Lancashire, Liverpool City Region, and Cheshire and Warrington. There are 5 hubs in England, and we work most closely with local government, but understand partnership and collaborative working is key in supporting housing retrofit. Currently, we are focused on providing strategic support to our LAs on grant-funded programs, and we're delivering a Northwest Skills Plan and local energy advice demonstrators. These 2 programs I'll discuss in more detail later. I have previously supported our region deliver the LAD2 grant and continue to offer support to our local authorities delivering grant-funded retrofit projects. I'm going to describe some of the findings of this and the scale of investment into the Northwest for retrofit from the 2020s onwards. Firstly, for those of you that are new to the range of programs and acronyms that exist in the grant funding space, the table on screen outlines how funds have historically been tied to government policy updates and announcements. For example, LAD was a COVID recovery economic stimulus package. The Sustainable Warmth Fund was tied to the Fuel Poverty Strategy update, and the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund and Home Upgrade Grant or HUG programs were part of funding commitments as part of the Heat and Building Strategy. These funds do have their differences, but all of these schemes are typically for vulnerable and fuel-poor households. Since 2020, there have been 3 local authority delivery or LAD programs, all now closed, and I'll present some statistics on one of these later today. The Sustainable Warmth Fund is also now closed, which was a combination of LAD3 funding and the first tranche of HUG or Home Upgrade Grant funding. These 2 funding pots represented on-gas and off-gas homes. But Sustainable Warmth Fund contained only the first tranche of HUG funding, and HUG 2 is currently in delivery up until April 2025. The Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund is being launched in waves with a 10-year funding commitment from government, with Wave 1 closed, Wave 2 in delivery, and Wave 3 in policy design. ECO has been around prior to the 2020s, but ECO 4 is underway, which saw a policy overhaul, enabling LAs to refer more of their local residents and a change in measures to reflect government's policies on retrofit. There is also a new local authority-led scheme being announced this year, currently titled LARS, Local Authority Retrofit Scheme. It is a £500 million scheme, which is the same amount of funding for all 3 LAD schemes combined. And I think this begs the question, 5 years later, are we delivering at a rate to need the same funding pots, more funding pots, or a consistent amount of funding? On screen, I have mapped the current funds across Northwest regions and years of delivery. What I've observed in this analysis is that the Northwest does present a strong picture on the national retrofit agenda. Across this area, we have delivered on large programs to account for 14% of the Sustainable Warmth funding, 14% of HUG 2 funding, and our Northwest population is about 12 to 13%, so we're typically winning work above the percentage of our population. You will see here that the LAD2 scheme, completed early 2022, ended up with 20% of the funding. I'll discuss this in more detail a little bit later on. The LAD2 programme is an important marker because it was delivered by local energy hubs throughout England and distributed to the regions based on population and need, rather than by competition. This means the whole region was delivering on this programme at once. As I noted, the North West spent more than it intended to, and this additional spend came from other parts of the country who underspent or other programmes that underspent. We ended up with 20% of the national pot, or potentially even closer to 25 to 28%, accounting for further underspend at programme close for LAD2. This doesn't mean all North West projects delivered more. Because we worked as a region, while some areas did not complete their anticipated spend, other areas like Liverpool City Region and Lancashire took on more funds. At programme close, 5,101 homes were retrofit against a target of 4,500. Lancashire represented 39% of the total homes retrofit, and Liverpool City Region 27% of the total. Other outcomes showed that 56% of homes achieved EPC band C or better following retrofit, 23% stayed at the same EPC band, 49% improved by one EPC band, and 27% improved by 2 or more EPC bands. I really like showing this slide. Heat demand reduction measures, or those fabric and insulation measures, were installed in 65% of properties. This is higher than the national average of 42%. With this program, fabric measures were a key performance indicator. With this fabric first approach and the new PAS standard being utilised for the first time in this program, you can see Liverpool City Region were at 56% heat demand reduction measures in this program. So the scheme brought in £10 million of additional funds to the North West, retrofitting more homes than planned and more fabric measures than government aimed to. We were a standout region. While this page are my own thoughts from what I observed, I think the successes in LAD2 were a combination of a number of things. At a national level, it was a scheme allocation to all areas, cultivating a collective effort from our region and into government and vice versa. Reporting mechanisms and scheme design was new and potentially less admin heavy than some other of more recent schemes. At a North West level, it was administered by the hub with locally led teams in each of the 5 sub-regions, which allowed for more place-specific delivery within those regions. These teams have now established themselves for other projects, and most are moving forward in a similar way that they did for LAD2. North West labour costs were marginally lower than other parts of the country, allowing the 10K cost cap to go a little further. At a sub-regional level, the 2 highest performing regions worked with local contractors and locally led supply chains. Both procured in different ways, but procurement was quick to mobilise and delivery faster as a result of this. So LAD2 showed that the North West and Liverpool City Region performed well against the national average of spend, mix and number of homes retrofitted. But is this trend continuing, and if so, why? Liverpool City Region delivered the 2nd highest number of homes under LAD2 in the North West region, and then in sustainable warmth delivered around 2,700 homes on the gas grid on the LAD3 component of that project, which was approximately 16% of the national homes delivered and the highest in the region. If you think back to that 12% Northwest figure, it's a significant achievement to see such a high number of homes in one area of the Northwest. So this analysis alone shows the Liverpool City Region is delivering more and more with each programme. Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund has also seen a large increase from programme to programme as established teams take on a larger piece of the pie. You can see the Liverpool City Region on screen there, amounts on screen for the last 2 programmes. So if we go back to the Local Authority Retrofit Scheme, or the LARS announcement of 500 million pot nationally, it could be proof that Liverpool City Region can now take on more than they will potentially win, as the funding pot is the same as it was for LAD, with programs scaling up across the country in these scales that we're looking at on screen. Other areas in the northwest have also grown substantially. Lancashire are currently delivering over £40 million of HUG2 funding. That's 7% of the national pot. Greater Manchester have large SHDF programs, £37 million currently in SHDF Wave 2. Cheshire and Warrington and Cumbria are also delivering on SHDF and HUG2, showing there are no gaps in grant-funded delivery throughout the northwest, and all areas are asking for more funding than previous. So while we might be topping out in terms of grant funding available, we also need to acknowledge that these grants will only scratch the surface of investment needed to decarbonise housing stock, with government expecting further capital to be generated from businesses and able to pay homeowners, as noted in the Heat and Building Strategy. So we're seeing more and more LAs now look to understand how we can support other parts of the retrofit sector, like the able to pay market. For example, Liverpool City Region has run a Solar Together program for its residents and is now onto its second scheme in that able to pay market generation. So there is always more work to do, and scaling up does require work across many areas and facets, and it's not just all about the amount of funding, but also how we can stimulate the market and get the best out of the funding that we have. So these next few slides are dedicated to this, and as my last slide noted, the able to pay market needs to be boosted. It's a topic that deserves its own 15-minute presentation. I can't do it justice to cover its entirety here, but understanding that local authorities are starting to think through how they can support to growing able to pay market in their areas. Engagement with residents of all types and tenures continually needs work, and the Northwest Net Zero Hub is running a program to understand new and innovative ways to give advice on housing retrofit. This work is called LEAD, or Local Energy Advice Demonstrators, and is being delivered across the Northwest with 7 delivery partners covering the whole geography. The outcomes of this program will be evaluated in the coming year, and ideally then built into learnings for project teams who are delivering on the ground. The Hub is also working on a Northwest retrofit skills plan. The aim of this plan is to identify skills gaps and needs and provide an implementable action plan to support skills and training needs for businesses, school leavers and organisations who work in retrofit. This will be produced within the coming few months, again engaging with all areas around the Northwest. We then have an action list back to government to request further funding for initiatives within that plan. Again, having the knock-on effect to supporting retrofit delivery programs by building capacity in our areas. There is also an evolving policy space with decisions and determinations to support the scale-up of retrofit still to come. Some of these include discussions around gas versus electricity pricing, with electricity 3 times the cost of gas, and the uptake of heat pumps and EV charge points to the home. Residents' energy bills are an essential concern. Hydrogen to homes debate is ongoing. Some argue hydrogen can be used like gas in household boilers. Others outline this as a resource-intensive use of hydrogen, which is better utilised in heavy industry. The Future Home Standard is in draft consultation, and it seeks to confirm no new gas boilers in new homes post-2025. Timely issue of Future Home Standard to get the construction industry on board and minimise future homes to retrofit is essential. And then the ambition to phase out gas boilers in existing homes is 2035 as opposed to a ban. So in summary, the Northwest is performing well as a region in terms of grant-funded programs. Liverpool City Region retrofit programs are still scaling upwards in terms of funding awarded and homes retrofit. And there are more schemes to come, which might mean that Liverpool City Region reaches an upper limit of capacity due to funds available. Only time will tell on this one in the coming year. Finding new ways of funding projects and supporting uptake across all tenures and ownership will be essential for LAs in the years to come. So there's still growing opportunity within the housing retrofit sector for Liverpool City Region to continue to lead nationally on delivery rates and winning funding, and using this to drive down the cost of fabric and low carbon technologies for all Liverpool City Region residents. The hub is aiming to support in decreasing the gap in public understanding of the challenge and the need for engagement through the local energy advice demonstrators, and communicate the opportunity for growth in the retrofit sector, including talking to the skills gaps and needs for all of our areas. Thank you very much. Please contact the Hub and myself for more information.